It's April the 2nd, 2014. My name is Tanya Finchum, along with Alex Bishop. We're here in Edmond, Oklahoma, to speak with Doris King, who is 106 almost.
And 3/4.
Thank you for having us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
When is your birthday?
Beg your pardon?
When is your birthday? Your birthday.
Oh, the 5th of June.
And you were born in 1907. And where?
In northwest London.
London?
Yes.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my mother was a nurse and my father was working at the post office. In those days, everything was sorted by hand, and my father was the chief sorter in the post office. Yes.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I had one brother, 6 years younger than me, and what happened with him? Oh, he was wonderful. I was sent away when I was, let's see, how old would I have been, 6 or 7, to stay with some neighbours. And then I was taken back home. And when I was taken back home, I was taken upstairs, found my mother was in bed. So I thought, oh, well, I've been sent away to be looked after when I was 6 or 7, because my mother was sick. Well, just at that time, there was a funny little noise seemed to be coming from the bed, and I said to my mother, "You must have a cat in your bed." And she said, "Oh no." And she opened the bedclothes, and there was this baby. At that age, I had no idea that my mother was going to have a baby that was pregnant. People didn't talk about it, you see. And so there was this little baby, my brother, 6 years younger than me. And we were always the very, very best of friends. Mm-hmm. And after he died, he had said that if he died before me, I don't know why he thought he might, because he was younger than me, he said, "I'll try and get in touch with you." And after he died, he sent me an angel. Yes. But I've told you all this, haven't I?
I can't remember. Yeah.
Did the angel say something?
Well, what happened was, at the time, I was singing in the choir, and with my friend, a very good friend, we were on our way to choir practice one night, and on the way we were going to stop at a shop that sold herbs and things. What kind of a shop is that? Pharmacy. And we were going to get, we were going to buy something there. Well, we got to the door, and my friend was behind me, and as we got to the door, a man came and hugged me. And then he wasn't there. And we asked in the shop if they knew who he was. He described him. Nobody knew who he was or anything. One minute he was there, and the next minute he was gone. And when we got back to the choir, the church where we were in a choir, some people were already there, and 2 young women that were there, they turned round and they said to me, they said, "That was an angel." because he was there
And
and then he wasn't there. And so my brother had sent me an angel
gave you a hug.
and gave me a hug. And it wasn't like hugging him anyway, because my brother was tall and slim and bony, and this was a sort of a shortish, well-set man. But that didn't matter. I had a hug. And he stroked my hair a little bit and said, "You need comforting." And then he wasn't there.
Well, what brought you to the United States?
Well, actually, I had divorced my husband with very good reason, and but the trouble was, it had left me because he left the house, the home, and had brought a woman to the house to stay, and I could do what I liked about it. Well, of course, I couldn't stay at the house with him there and this woman and her boy. So my older son, Richard, he decided that he would go and live with my parents. So, and he could, because he was 18 years old then, and so he went and lived with my parents. So I was left with my younger son, Eric, the one that lives, whose house this is. I was left with him and no home. So of course life got very difficult, and it's all in a book that I've written. And anyway, I've stayed in England. I finally managed to get back into the job that I was already in when I had to leave, and that was H.J. Heinz Company. And they had a new factory there when I was about 18 and had just left school. And so I liked the job because maths was my major, and everything in those days was done in your head. There were no machines. No, just one adding machine was in the office, and that was to add up all the wages of the week. The factory were paid weekly, and so that was a weekly job with one machine. Otherwise, all their working cards and all their pay and everything that had to be deducted was all done in your head. But I loved it. And actually, when I was 25, I got married, and oh dear, I'm lost for a second. Excuse me.
Did you stop working when you got married?
Yes, I stopped working that I got married. And then, I know, a long time later, as a matter of fact, I went back there during the war, and I went back there after my divorce. I managed to get back there then. But anyway, I was in an office job at the time, and a sister-in-law who had a hairdressing place in her home, she says, as one of my clients has a daughter who's in America. She was a GI bride, you know, and apparently married somebody quite well off, but she wanted to go home for her parents' wedding anniversary, and but she wanted a housekeeper to be with her husband, and a girl of 14 and a boy of 7. She wanted a housekeeper while she was in England at her parents' wedding. a wedding anniversary. So my sister-in-law said, "Well, why don't you see what this is about?" So I went to interview the mother, and of course she was sizing me up, but she was also telling me what it was a bit like in America, and so came to the time when because it was afternoon and we'd had a cup of tea, of course, and I was just going home, and I said, "Well, all right, I'll think about it and I'll let you know," because it was a big step to make, to leave England and go to America, because I had my other son there in England too. So anyway, I set out to go up the road home, and then all of a sudden the mother called out after me and said, "Shall I tell my daughter that you're coming?" And I said, "Oh yes." And I thought, great Scott, I've said I'll go to America. Because having said that, I kept my word. So that's how I came. The dear Lord put those words in my mouth. I know He did, because I hadn't begun to discuss to myself whether I would go to America or not. I hadn't made any decision at all. But as she said that, "Shall I tell my daughter you're coming?" out it came. Yes.
And about what year was that?
Oh dear. Now I've got to stop and think. No, I don't know.
Okay. Well, then what brought you to Oklahoma?
Oh well, that was when I. Well, that's what brought me to Oklahoma,
Okay.
wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, yes, that was my first visit to Oklahoma. Yes, to this daughter's place. I didn't stay there very long, but then I got a job as a housekeeper to somebody who worked at CIA, the American, yes, CIA. Now that was quite a nice job. That was. And a man had lost his wife, and he had a little girl, so I was housekeeper and looked after the little girl as well. She was only about 7 when I went there, so that's another story.
Well, you mentioned you sang in the choir. You sang in the choir?
Oh yes, when I came to America, there was a church. There was a Methodist church, and that suited me all right. And I joined the choir at this place. Yes, and the people, the director of the choir and his wife, they were extremely helpful to me. Yes, they were very, very nice people.
So you enjoy singing?
Oh yes, I've sung all my life. I've sung solos in the church from the age of about 12. Yes, and then during the war, I had the opportunity of getting a professional teaching, and so at one point I was going to be a professional singer, but that didn't work out either. But anyway, I think sometimes our roads are crossed, sometimes our roads are changed, but we don't always have the answer ourselves, but it's sort of given to us.
Well, do you sing today?
Oh, I do. If I want to cheer myself up, we apparently the lady that's in the room where I'm going, it likes classical music, or so do I, and I have a lot of it on tape, and so I get to know a lot of songs, a lot of the older songs too, I know, and if I want to cheer myself up, I start to sing.
What would you sing?
Huh?
Give us an example. What would you sing?
Well, I've had one recording made that was made in England, and that was one of them was "Sleep, Baby, Sleep." That's a lullaby in the recording, and then the Lord. The Lord is my shepherd, I will not want. No, that isn't the one. Sleep, baby, sleep. Did I say that? Oh.
Can you sing it for me?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about the voice now. It was all right when I was 50.
Give it a try.
Sleep. Oh, wait a minute. No, what I will sing is the one that I sang last. The Lord is my light and my salvation. I'm sorry.
Better than I could do.
When I'm this age, it doesn't come out so well. No, there were four solos in this rendering. A friend of mine did it. We had a job getting together because the organist lived in one place and the one friend that was going to record it lived in another place, and the church where I sang them, that was another place. And getting these people together at the same time was no joke. But we managed it in the end, and it's made a nice recording. Yes, I do have that.
You mentioned the World War I. Do you have any particular memories from that?
Oh yes, of course. World War I started when I was 7, didn't it? And yes, that's right. And my mother happened to have TB, tuberculosis, and they sent her away to a sanatorium for a few months. So I was sent to some cousins to stay, and I was there quite a part of the World War I. And what amused me later in life, I thought, when the sirens all went, my aunt or uncle, whoever was looking after me, they woke me up, took me downstairs because the lower floor would be safer than the upstairs, and then said, "Now go to sleep." Oh, the guns were going, the planes were going, their planes, the German planes, and the night sky was crisscrossed with the searchlights trying to find the German planes to be shot down. "Go to sleep," they said. Yes, so I was there during quite a part of World War I. But my father was a keen Bible student, and he knew that in there it says, "Thou shalt not kill." So he didn't want to go in the army. But my mother was convinced that he wouldn't have gone. For one reason, he was a lot older than the men that were being called up, Another reason was the fact that as he was the chief sorter at the post office, that was a sort of special job that he would be needed for. But anyway, he joined up. But after a while, it was after my mother came back from the sanatorium, they took him out of the army. So what the reason was, we really never knew. But he went back to being a sorter again. Yes. So that was, and in World War One was a time when, of course, it was very, very difficult to get lots of different kinds of food, you know, because in those days there was too many submarines around getting rid of the English Navy, you know, and but anyway, they where did I get to?
There wasn't much food.
There
wasn't much food.
All the shops were little shops in those days when I was growing up. There would be the greengrocer used to come around with a horse and cart, because there wasn't any cars, you see. And then there'd probably be a shop. The rumour would go round, there's been a consignment of sugar at such and such a shop. Everybody went there, and they had their either, I can't remember, it was 1 or 2 bags of sugar each that they got then. Yes. And so the food was short, and of course, Second World War we had rations, but not in the First World War. That was some time coming about, and but we used to rush up to the shops when we knew there'd been a consignment of food arriving. Yes. And we in those days, of course, when I was growing up, you either walked or you went by bicycle. You could ride a bike, but there were there were only trains. Only trains and the horses on the land. So as I say, you either walked or if you were lucky you had a bike. I remember going to school on a bike later on. As I got a scholarship to be a teacher, and so I got a higher education than most of my neighbour friends, because most of them all left at the age of 14 and went to work, and they had to be probably in a shop or do cleaning or something like that. But they did offer me another year, but then I thought, well, I don't know, all my neighbours are going to work, my neighbours' friends were going to work and providing something for the family. I felt I can't be out of it. So actually, and it wasn't a sure thing that I would pass the next time I took the exam, you know, that I failed. So I decided that I'd leave school and get a job and help with the family. So that's when I found out about the factory being built in within walking distance of my home. So that was all right, and as I say, I had many happy years working at H.J. Heinz Company. Yes.
Well, when you decided to come to When you decided to come to America, how did you get here? By, by boat or by plane?
Oh, I came by boat, yes.
By boat.
At that time, it worked out cheaper than coming by air. And of course, I had a pretty lot of luggage too, as I was staying. Yes. Mm. So?
Do you remember getting your first car?
Oh yes. Well, I had. I'd been working for a doctor, and he had the idea that when he retired, he'd like Eric and me to go with him in his retirement, and that suited me because he was quite easy to get on with, and he was good to Eric. He really was good to Eric. So I was happy about that, but then his sister came along and says, "Oh no, he's going to live with me." So that knocked that out. Otherwise, I was going to retire with the doctor that I was working for, but that didn't work out. So I had to find something else to do. So I think that was when I went back to because after the Second World War, you see, we're not so many men coming home. They had to cut out this order that only, the order that only men could work in the office and not women. You couldn't work in an office if you were married, a woman, and then. But anyway, as I say, after the war, with so many men gone, they had to change their rules. Mm. So of course, then the women started working in the offices too. Mm.
Did you enjoy cooking?
I love cooking, and I made. I tell you what, I liked decorating them too. I did have a book, and I don't know where it's gone, whether it's lost between here and where I was living on my own, in my own house before I came here. I don't know. It was a book full of a picture of all the cakes that I decorated. So, and when the kids were little, the children here, because I've got great-grandchildren here, and I would make probably a cake if it was one of their birthdays, and they're great sportsmen. I would make a cake and then put on the top a football field and make it like that for the boys. Mm. Yes, they're all. Until the last great-grandchild was born, they were all boys, great-grandchildren. But so I've got four great-grandchildren in England, and I've got how many here? One grandson has four, 7 great-grandchildren here. Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're all such nice people. Oh, they're such nice people. Very musical. They all one plays the bass, you know, and the girl, she plays 2 instruments. I can't remember which 2, and my granddaughter, she's a teacher, and she gives teaching on the flute and the piano. Oh, they're all very musical. It's great.
They got that from you?
Well, I hope I passed some of it down anyway. No, yes.
Well,
But-
did you ever think you would live to be 100?
No, I never gave it a thought. No. Well, one doesn't, does one?
Not until you're 99.
No. That's right. That's right.
Did they have a big birthday party?
When I was 100, they had one, and they brought out this book that I'd written of not of my whole life, but of 20 years of it anyway. My daughter-in-law here, she edited the book, and I said to Eric, my son, do we have any more? We didn't put them on the bookshelf. Eric and she, they bought a whole lot and gave them to friends. Well, I think they're coming to an end now. You can't get one in a shop, but we gave them away to friends, and it was only recently I asked him if he got any left anywhere, because I said people are always popping up who'd like one.
Yes.
So I don't know if there is one available. Did he give you one?
I don't think they found one.
No.
They
Oh.
haven't.
Well, if we do manage to find one somewhere, we'll see about giving you one, because there's about 20 years of my life anyway in it. But after writing for about 20 years, I got a bit tired.
Did you, when you were living in England as a child, or
What'd you say?
when you were living in England, did you ever get a chance to see the royal family?
Oh, yes, because we lived in Wembley, which was just over the border from northwest London, and there was that great big place where they had sports and races and all sorts of things. And sometimes the royal family would go to these affairs, these games. And so it was just a walk up the hill to see them go by. So that's when I would see the royal family. I have a nephew in Cornwall, or you don't know where Cornwall is. It's southwest England. Recently, he had an invitation to a Queen's garden party, and then found out afterwards that my nephew had been helping a lot with boys. He'd been helping to teach them how to play the bagpipes, because he was crazy about Scotland, and yeah.
What about during World War II and the bombing of London? Were you around that time?
I was in London during the Blitz, and I had a house at the back of us had a direct bomb hit. Yes, but we had an indoor shelter, and in one of my books I've got a picture of the cover that they gave you to put in your house. It was like a table with a deep metal top, and if you put it in the corner of a house, you see two walls would guard it, and then at night you would put a mattress on the floor and a grating. You had two gratings to put up the other two sides of the shelter. Well, that would save you from the blast, because these bombs did as much bad work demolishing a house as they did with the blast, because that sort of spread out, and of course destroyed everything that it hit. And this one bomb that went down at the back of us, and we never did find out exactly what happened, whether there were any people in the house or whether it was an empty house or not, I don't know. But anyway, the blast from that shot open our back door, which was locked, and then apparently went up the stairs because that was the way of least resistance. It shot up the stairs, but then of course he got to the roof and he couldn't go any further, and it was dying of power, so it came back down, and with it brought all the dust and dirt and everything that was in the attic. And all we got really was a lot of things fall off the wall and that, but our house really escaped very well.
Scary times.
Huh?
Scary times.
Oh, it was scary, all right.
And Winston Churchill was a pretty important person at that time.
Yes, he was wonderful.
How influential do you think he was to you? Or
yes, he was wonderful. I think so. Yes, and there was in London. There's Hyde Park. That's one of the parks, and the entrance to the park. There was a big arch. The arch in the park, and it was in the basement underneath the ground where there was an office, a war office, underneath at a marble arch where as the entrance to the park. Yes, that was in London.
Now, can you explain to me what exactly was the Heinz Company? You said you worked for the Heinz Company.
Yes.
What did they produce?
57 varieties.
Of what?
Well, food. Well, what's ketchup?
Oh, ketchup. Okay.
Ketchup and sauce, HB sauce, that was great. Oh, yeah. And of course, working there, we used to be able to buy them at cost, you see. And it was a very, very good firm to work for. Every Christmas they gave a party to all the employees' children. And at one time it did have a photograph of Richard, my English boy, at one of the parties, but I don't know where that is either.
Did you ever get a chance to meet the owners? Did you ever have a chance to meet the owners?
Well, no, he didn't go to England very much from America, because it's an American firm. And I believe he visited, but very, very seldom. No, I can't say that I ever saw the owner, no.
Do you have a secret to living to be 106?
Not at all, not at all. All I've told you about what I do when I pray and how the prayers are answered, I think that's, but then of course I haven't been doing that since I'm so old. No.
Well, do you have a motto?
No, I don't think I have anything special, no. But the lady that comes and gives me a shower, she had this beautiful saying, that somebody who was over 100 had evidently written, and the comments on it were just wonderful. So I'm hoping that she'll copy it for me, because it gives you a lot of insight into how you can behave, you know? Yeah, and how you should behave, probably. Yes. Yes.
How important has religion been in your life?
Very important. It means everything. I have a strong faith. You need a faith that you understand. You know, no mystery about it. A faith that you understand and that you can live by, and live by it the best you can. Yes, I've always had a lot of questions, religious questions, and then I found it was, I know what brought it to me. You see, I had married, for better, for worse, and I intended to keep all of my vows. But then Mr. King made it impossible, because what he did, he brought home to my house a woman and her child, and informed me that they were staying and I could do what I liked. So what choice did I have? I just went. And so I had quite a time. As I say, my elder boy, he said he was 18, so he could make a choice. So he went and lived with my parents. Well, there wasn't room for Eric and me as well, so we had to fend for ourselves. And that's what the beginning part of that book is all about, me trying to cope. Oh.
And was religion an important part of the coping process? Was religion an important part of the coping process?
Yes, well, how it happened, you see, I thought, well, there's no marriage, but then, you see, I'd promised that I would, stay to the end. Well, then I thought to myself, well, I don't know, there's something not quite right. Well, then I was introduced during the war to the Grail message of the Holy Grail. And I used to go and have my professional voice training. And then one day she said, well, so when after the evenings are done, we have a reading from a book, from a religious book. Would you care to stay? And so I said, well, yes. Mr. King was in the army at that time, and Eric was, the younger boy, was evacuated away from the bombers of London. So I said, sure, I'll listen. And after the second lecture, my spirit was risen. And eventually I came across one of the lectures that explained that in heaven there is no marriage. The only thing that keeps two people together is the love. The love lives on, but the marriage as an institution is nothing. So that freed me, you see, to get a divorce, didn't it? And so after that I sent for the book, and I started reading all the lectures, and my questions were just answered. They were just answered, and I thought, well, then this is what I believe. The Holy Grail.
And what about prayer? How important is prayer? How important is prayer for you?
Prayer is very important. You must keep in touch with the Lord always, and then not forgetting to thank Him when things go right that you asked for. Yes, remember. I used to have. There weren't many Grail people here, and I used to have the services at my house when I had my house, and but then after that we had the everybody that was a Grail person passing through Oklahoma used to come, and I used to get them a dinner. And we used to have services, that was fine. But then, of course, it dwindled down, and several of the people that used to come used to be going to the university that's only just a little way away. Well, when they stopped coming, of course, there really wasn't very many available to come. So then what we did, when I came here, because it wasn't convenient to have services here, we had a reading. So those that are left, the few of us that are left, come here came once a month on a Sunday, and we had a reading from the message. Yes. So I don't know what will happen now. Actually, two of the people who come for the reading live in Guthrie. So I'm wondering if something can be done. Maybe they wouldn't mind taking on the reading on once a month to keep us in touch.
Oh, what's a typical day?
You've got to understand what you believe, and you've got to believe it, and you've got to live it. That's partly why I wear a cross. When I accepted the Grail message, I had a cross. You get a cross. You can't buy it in a shop. You get a cross from them, and then it's a kind of reminder that this is what you believe, and this is what you're living by. Yes.
Well, what's a typical day for you? What's a typical day like for you?
Well, now you're covering a lot of years.
No, today, like this week.
This week, well, it's a bit confusing, to tell you the truth, because Banu is putting some things in boxes, and some of my things are staying here, and some of the things are going to the new place. I don't really know where I am. But I'll find my feet one of these days, and I'll make the best of it.
Positive attitude.
It's got to be. You can't have a negative attitude. You can't. You really can't. Because that'll foil you every time.
Now, when history is written, what do you want it to say about you?
About me? Well, to the best of my ability, I did my best, but I don't have the final answers of what the result what will be. Whether I passed any exams or not, I do know that everything we do, whether we say it, whether we pray it, whatever it does, has consequences. And sometimes we forget that. But everything has a consequence. So it better be good.
Well, where do you call home when someone asks you home? Is that here, or
Well, it was.
England, or what?
Well, I was brought up in England. Of course, I lived there I lived there until I came here, which was, I'm trying to give you a date, but I'm not sure that I can. No.
Well, how old was Eric when you moved here? Maybe that'll help.
Oh yes, that might help, mightn't it? He was about 18, I suppose. He was given a full scholarship with one of the people that visited, one of the people that visited England. He's not my religion, as you call it. He's a Church of Christ. He calls himself, and he and his wife pretty well run the Church of Christ here in Edmond. Yes. So he's about 18. Well, I had Eric when I had Richard when I was 39. Well, it was 3 years after I got married. I got married when I was 25. 3 on that, yes, about 28 or 29, when I had Richard. And then Eric was born after the war in 46. 46. That's right. He was born.
So in the early 60s is about when you came here then.
Yes.
1960s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So Oklahoma's home?
Well, it is now. Oh yes, it is now.
Okay.
This little bit of it at the moment, but I don't know where I'll finally end up. I thought I was going to land up here, but that didn't work. But the dear Lord knows when He's going to take me. I don't.
Is there anything left on your wish list to do?
Well, no, those sort of things are past. I didn't sing, and I didn't become a teacher, and I didn't become a nurse. They were all paths that just went off the board.
But it's been a good life overall?
Oh, I think so. I've had a lot of help. I certainly had a lot of help. And I mean, it seems to me all the people I meet are very, very nice. I don't think I've got anybody that I would dismiss, you know.
Well, we certainly appreciate you telling us your stories today.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, well, I'm glad about that.
All right.